Talk more about that story. We start at the beginning of the show, where the Supreme Court has observed on the diesel vehicle ban in the capital. Our reporter reporting that the Supreme Court has mulled hiking environment compensation charge on all of these trucks, buses and cars entering the national capital. Ashmit Kumar, who is there in Supreme Court, now joining us live. Ashmit, the Supreme Court hinting at banning fresh registration of diesel cars which are more than 2,000 cc, hinting that trucks are going to have to pay a higher charge for entering the national capital. What exactly did the Apex Court have to say?
Well, at this point, the Apex Court clearly looking to turn on the heat as far as tackling the pollution menace is concerned, and towards that end, looking at very drastic measures here. As we had been expecting, the Supreme Court did in fact consider that option, and in fact over the course of the proceedings today, it entertained a lot of concerns that had been expressed by the markets with respect to a rise in pollution levels, and also with respect to the role that diesel vehicles play in terms of the pollution menace is concerned. And towards at this end, the Apex Court in very clear terms, in fact, observing that it is certainly open to the idea of considering at least a temporary, a partial ban as far as registration of diesel vehicles are concerned for a 3-month pilot period, wherein the threshold will be set at 2,000 cc. So essentially what that means is that diesel vehicles with an engine capacity of higher than 2,000 cc could possibly face a ban on registration for the coming 3 months. That's the first takeaway. The second takeaway, just to remind our viewers, in the month of October, the Apex Court had in fact slapped the ECC, or which is otherwise referred to as the Environment Compensation Charge, of 700 and 1,300, depending on the category of the commercial vehicle entering the state boundaries, the capital boundaries. Now, what we understand is that given these concerns with respect to pollution, the Apex Court at this point is considering the drastic measure of doubling these charges. Along with that, doubling these charges to, of course, 1,400 and 2,600 to be specific. Along with that, the specifics of the order could also entail, at least as far as the observations are concerned from today, they hint at perhaps further screws being tightened in terms of alternate routes being worked out and more restrictions being put on vehicles entering the city limits. There are also, at this point, observations that's important to point out that the Apex Court is considering with respect to remedies that are currently available with respect to cabs that are applying within city limits. And this is directly going to impact aggregators such as Ola, such as Uber, in terms of the fuel that they are likely to be using. So at this point, clearly, a multi-pronged strategy was what we are expecting from the Apex Court. Tomorrow morning, 10:30, is when we expect final orders along these lines. At least that's the observations, gauging from the observations from the Chief Justice. Back to you.
So tomorrow the hearing is going to resume, and that's when we're going to see the final order, but some important observations that are coming in. Ashmit, hang in there. We're also being joined by Prakash Diwan on the phone line. Prakash Diwan on Ultimate Capital Management. Prakash, what do you make of the observations that have come in from the Supreme Court, the final order coming in tomorrow, but you are looking at a situation which is that diesel engines of more than 2,000 cc could be banned, the new registration that is?
That's true. So what seems like happening is they're trying to focus on getting the SUVs and the gas guzzlers out, and that means typically a Scorpio, which is about 2,500, 2,600 cc, various variants would completely be out for new registrations, and that leaves the smaller cars, which are regarded as more fuel efficient, like your Swift and the Swift Desire and the Ertiga, that they could kind of make the grade. So Maruti doesn't get impacted, but M&M does get impacted for sure. My sense is that this seems to be like a proposal from the Supreme Court, so this will be taken seriously, and eventually, somewhere around on the same lines, a probable ban could probably get into force. And more interestingly, the cess that they're talking about hiking means that that will disallow a lot of people from getting vehicles from outside to bring in to NCR or into Delhi. So I think they're trying to plug all the gaps and make it, every day we are seeing it evolve into a slightly more pragmatic kind of an approach. But till what I can make out, from what I can make out, it does impact M&M much more worse, more worse situation than Maruti and Tata Motors.
Okay, Prakash, just hang in there. Ashmit, I just want to bring you back into this conversation because you were there in Supreme Court. You know, you talked about how earlier the Supreme Court had come out with a levy. There have been so many stories, so many reports on how all of these trucks are not paying that while entering the capital. Did that come up at all for discussion in the Supreme Court? Because while they might be talking of increasing that fee even more, they're not paying what was decided in the month of October already.
Now, indeed, given the wide scope of that order in October, in terms of the sheer logistics involved, the number of exits, the number of vehicles coming in, going in as far as 65,000 per day. That's the kind of figure that these various contractors had to handle on various exits and entry points to the city. That was one point that was driven home by Hari Salve, the amicus in the matter, that at this point the implementation has been an issue given the logistical constraints that the various parties have to work within. And towards that end, that has been one concern. But at this point, again, what we understand is that the apex court looking to employ a stick as of this moment, between the carrot and the stick, choosing the stick at this point, coming down on the various agencies, and in fact seeking greater cooperation within the agencies and with the judiciary itself to ensure better implementation and tighter implementations. We understand that as and when the order comes out tomorrow morning, there'll be greater specifics involved in terms of the implementation itself, in terms of the interface between various agencies and between how the issues tackled with in terms of alternate routes that are made available and the enforcement of these charges. So these various contours that we will see the details towards, at least gauging from the observations, one felt that the apex court is looking at fine-tuning the entire process, but clearly doubling of the ECC, ensuring that vehicles that are entering Delhi are in fact emissions compliant, are in fact paying the ECC, is something that the apex court is really keen on, and is really keen on tackling the pollution menace here in the national capital.
Okay, Ashmit, hang in there. I'm now going to bring in our in-house expert, Sonia. So, Sonia, you know, Prakash Dibanj is telling us that M&M is going to be impacted because, you know, whether you look at the Scorpio, you look at the XUV, it's more than 2,000 cc. It's great news for all of those manufacturing hybrid cars.
Oh, yes. You know, before that, Nendar, I just have one question for Ashmit, if he's still on the line. Ashmit, we were talking about the Supreme Court imposing this compensation charge, which will double. Is it only on trucks, or will it be extended to other vehicles like cars as well? Ashmit? Okay, I think we don't have Ashmit on the line now, but Jagdish Khattar is also with us. Mr. Khattar, good evening and thanks for joining us. So there will be an immediate impact on M&M, as we all know, because, you know, there is a ban on diesel cars which are more than 2,000 cc, and a majority of M&M's portfolio is more than 2,000 cc SUVs. But overall for the sector, you know, what's your view now? How damaging could this really be?
See, besides damaging, it is causing a lot of confusion. And I think confusion is worse than anything possible. You have the NGT, which is saying that they have banned registration till 6, over 10 cars not to be re-registered and all. And today, Supreme Court is giving a different, what they are saying, they have commented upon it, proposing, of course, that tomorrow it will come. I mean, by banning only 2-liter engine and above, is not even a couple of percentage of the total cars. The Supreme Court had said earlier that they wanted a comprehensive proposal by the 15th from centre and the states. And there are so many constituents of the pollution. I wish they were to pursue on that line. And this piecemeal, well, they have taken a decision, it will be implemented. But I doubt very much whether it will make a lot of difference. Yes, individuals can be affected. M&M can be affected, luxury cars can be affected, but it will not improve the overall situation.